All right, we are live. If you are watching, say hello in the comments and tell me where you're from and what you're up to. Okay, so if you're watching, say hi in the comments. Tell me where you're from and what you've been up to lately. Up to means what you've been doing lately. I just wrote a comment. So up to equals doing, as in what are you up to, which means the same thing as what have you been doing lately. So say hi in the comments. Tell me where you're from and what you've been up to lately. If we haven't met yet, my name is Shelley. I am an instructor at My Yes Milano Filzi, and it is a pleasure to have you all today in this webinar. What have I been up to lately? I have been exercising at home. I have been cooking a lot. And I have been watching a great deal of TV and also reading books. I read a lot of books and I listen to a lot of podcasts. How about you? I can't wait to see your comments. While I'm waiting for your comments, let me first make sure that my connection is good. I'm teaching a webinar. Can you lower the quality of what you're watching? That was a text message to my husband so that he could stop watching something uh, on streaming while he's working and while I'm doing a webinar. I see a lot of people logged in. I would like you to please say hi. Please say hi in the comments. Tell me where you're from and what you're up to. And if you don't know what you're up to, that is, what have you been doing lately? Tell me, what have you been doing lately? And if I get no comments, I will stay here and stare at you like this for 50 minutes. Hi. Hi, Valeria. It's nice to meet you. Um, Hi, I'm Valeria from Castelnuovo near Modena. Lately, I think I'm up to been cooking minestrone. I don't know how to say minestrone in English, but it's a vegetable soup. Um, so how do you answer? That's a good guess, Valeria. How do you answer? What have you been up to? You answer, I've been verb plus ing. I've been cooking minestrone. So very close, very close. Great job. In English, you can say minestrone, but it is a very specific recipe for a lot of English speakers. It doesn't mean soup generally. It's a very specific type of soup with very little noodles and with a lot of vegetables. So maybe it's the same. No, you're welcome, Valeria. Thank you for commenting. Anyone else? So, what have I been up to? I've been reading. I've been listening to podcasts. I've been cooking a lot. And I've been teaching English lessons. And while we're waiting for comments, let's get started with our lesson. I want the bigger one. Okay. So we will be talking about school days today. And in this focus activity, we'll be remembering our school days. So the past, we'll be using used to and would, and using school and phrasal verb vocabulary. So we have quite a lot of new information, and I know that you'll love it. Hi, Valentina. It's nice to meet you. Um, Valentina, my name is Valentina. I'm from Milan. I have been studying English, doing exercises, and I have been cooking and watching TV. I have been staying in the sun at home. Yes. Hi, Louisa. Louisa is in Monza. It's nice to meet you too. Um, and thank you so much for your comments. Welcome. So let's talk about schools. What kind of school did you go to? Did you go to a public school, a private school, a religious school, maybe a Catholic school or a Protestant school, or um, do they have Hebrew schools? I know they do on the weekends. Louisa says, I keep myself occupied doing a lot of things. Ileana, hi from Trieste. It's nice to see you, Ileana. Great job, guys. It's so nice to meet everyone. I hope you're ready to talk about school. Elisa, hi, I'm from a country near Milano. You can say region or town near Milano or Milan. Lately, I've been studying and have been making a cake. Excellent. That sounds like a lot of fun. Elisa, thank you. Tatiana from Mayas Leon. Hi, Tatiana. I've seen you before. Welcome back. Lately, I've been cooking quiche Lorraine for my lunch and also watching a previous webinar. Nice. So, studying English a lot. And Louisa, I'm retired now. I was a teacher. Oh, that's so nice. That's lovely. So during this quarantine, you are more free not to have to do webinars. It's nice that you're here. I'm very glad that you're here to learn with us today. So tell me about school. What was your favorite subject? What was your least favorite subject? What else were you good or not good at? So, were you good at sports? Were you good at history or art? Or did you prefer to socialize? Remember, answers should be in the past tense. My favorite subject was. I was good at soccer or football. I was good at history. I was good at science. So tell me in the comments about school. What kind of school? I went to private Catholic school for most of my education. Um, Private Catholic school in the United States. My favorite subject was Japanese, and my least favorite subject was generally math, but I wanted to be good at math. I really wanted to be good at it, and it was difficult to learn. Louisa, I was good at science. That's nice to hear. Did you teach science, Louisa? What kind of courses did you teach, or what subjects? Valentina, I am in near a countryside near Milan. In the past, I attended public school. My favorite subjects were math, science, biology, grammar, and English. Excellent use of were, the plural. That looks lovely and great spelling. Thank you, Valentina. Waiting to hear. So, what was your favorite subject and what was your least favorite subject? And can you think of any new subjects? Valentina brought up a couple. She said biology, science, grammar, and English. Did you study any other foreign languages? Or did you study English? I want to know this question. Valeria says, I went to a public school and my favorite subject was math, but I was good at, ah, humanistic, which is, I was good at humanities, like history and Italian. We say humanities generally. Louisa, I, past tense for teach, taught. I taught in a public high school. Okay, generally every subject. Did you teach something specific like science? Let's get the spelling. So teach, present tense. Past tense, taught. And that is also the past participle. I have taught. Louisa studied English and hated history. So tell me, did you study any foreign languages in school? I studied Japanese for a couple years and I don't remember anything. I am next to useless. Okay, Louisa, that's so nice to hear. You taught biology and chemistry. Wow. Those sound like fun subjects to teach to students. It also sounds like maybe the students would not want to be taught biology and chemistry. Tatiana went to state art school. My favorite subjects were art history, literature, and French. My least favorite subjects were math and geography. I was good at school theater performances. That's great to hear. And it sounds very interesting. An art school, wow. Valentina, I was good at scientific subjects and at sports or artistic activities. Um, sport or sports, I think they're both correct. So thank you. That's excellent. Valeria says, I've studied Spanish for a few years, but I didn't learn it very well. Um, in this case, if you're talking about specifically in the past, totally finished, I studied just simple past. I studied Spanish for a few years. Um, unless you want to emphasize how long you spent the few years, you would say, I've studied Spanish. Students don't love chemistry. Yes. They don't, but it's so important to know. It is so important to know chemistry, even for basic things like being at home, to know what things are made of, to understand how chemicals respond to each other, what is an acid and what is a basic. I think these things are important even for just daily life. Wow, Valentina studied Latin, but you didn't like it. Does it help you with learning other languages? Does learning Latin? Louisa studied Latin as well, but doesn't remember anything. I use Latin in crosswords. So crosswords are cruciverba in Italian. They often ask for clues or give clues for answers in Latin, and that is the only time, except when I am trying to read something historical on a building. Valeria, my school was about chemistry, and now I am a chemist. Oh, and you had a teacher called Louisa. The past tense, I had a teacher called Louisa. I have really good memories, plural. So you don't need a. I have really good memories of her. That's really great to hear. Wow. So, Louisa, did you have Valeria in your classes? So remember that is chemist. I had a teacher called, we're staying in the past tense. That's such an interesting story. Oh, it's probably useful for German. So don't forget, it's probably useful. That's the word order. It's probably useful for German. I think so, because with all of the different, maybe, mm, I have to think about that. Latin and German, because to me, they seem like very different languages, but I only studied enough German to read it, not to understand it. What? Seriously? Well, Eddie, you really studied with Louisa. Oh my gosh, this would be the best story ever. I want to hear more. Were you really her teacher? That is amazing. Elisa says, I attended public school. My favorite subject was philosophy, and I was good at it. So at university, I studied psychology. Ooh, that's fascinating. That sounds like such a wonderful topic to get into, human thought. That's so interesting. In the United States, in high school, generally, it is a general education. So most people who go to secondary school or high school, they don't tend to go to art schools specifically, or schools that only deal with science. It is, for most students, a general education. So when Americans talk about being in high school or secondary school, for the most part, uh, their experiences are similar. Valeria, oh, I think she's another Louisa. My teacher has a different surname, but we'll pretend, right? Pretend is make believe, or fake. It is a false friend. So if you're thinking of a different verb, pretend is make believe. So in my mind, this is a beautiful reunion. Louisa, you're funny. Oh, Louisa is a fan of psychology as well. Well, that was nice to get to know everyone. Let's move forward to the next slide. So, used to and would. We're going to be practicing used to and would quite a bit today. They are both referring to the past. We can use used to in the past to talk about something that was true but isn't anymore. If you can give an example of how to use used to, please do it in the comments. How do we use used to? If you know, tell us in the comments. Give us an example. For example, let me give you a short example. When I was a kid, I used to love the swings. You know what swings are. I used to love the swings. Now they give me a headache. I don't like them anymore. Example, I used to be shy. Now I'm more confident. That is not true. I was never shy. We can also use used to talk about something which happened regularly in the past but doesn't happen anymore. So, I used to go to the gym every day. I do not anymore, not for a long time. I used to skip classes with my friends and go to the mall. Skip class means not go to class, and instead they went shopping. Would, however, is nostalgic. We would stay at school and hang out for hours. So this is more complicated because would is also um, kind of a way to show like past tense and also probability-ish in a way. It is also a way of making a polite request, like, would you like to go to the store? We use would for a lot of things. In this situation, it means in the past, we would stay after school and hang out for hours. And it was a nostalgic is a memory, a fond memory that you like thinking of. Ah, there we do. So Louisa says, many years ago, I used to smoke. Perfect. That is an excellent example of used to. I used to smoke, uh, but you do not smoke anymore. When I was a child, I used to play with other children. So other modifies children, and children is already plural, so you don't need to have the S. With other children in the garden. Excellent. Thank you, Louisa. Tatiana says, when I was a teenager, I used to play piano, but now I forgot everything. Me too. I have a keyboard, I have a piano that I can play, and I'm like a child, like dee 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 dee. That's how I play piano. Lisa, I used to be lazy. Now I'm very sportive. Is we generally might say athletic rather than sportive. Athletic, but yeah, that's an excellent use of used to. I used to be lazy. Um, this is interesting, Louisa. I past tense forgive. Past tense forgive is I gave up smoking. So that is another verb ing. I gave up smoking. And to give up means to stop, to quit. Excellent. Yeah, exactly. I gave up. Great comments, everyone. So with used to, you all got it right. You use the infinitive after. So I used to go. I used to be. I used to smoke. And would is also followed by the infinitive. I would stay. I would play. So now we have a gap fill exercise. Everyone, give me the number and the answer, okay? So as we're going through this, I'll read and you tell me in the comments, 1, answer, 2, answer, 3, answer, 4. Sound good? So school vocabulary. Fill in the gaps to complete the sentences about school. Use these terms in the correct form. You have to use them in the correct form. So be careful of plurals, singulars, and let's see how we do this. Use these terms in the correct form. So pupils or students? Truant or skip school? Be a troublemaker? Nerd? Teacher's pet? Well behaved? So, truant, skip school. Skip is a verb. Truant is a noun. That is important to know. A truant skips school. You can be truant because it's still a noun. Number one, I was a big in school. I would get straight A's every semester. Yeah, me too. Number two, I was a blank. So no one liked me except the teacher, of course. That's a hint. Except the teacher, of course. I thought other blank were just jealous, but I was probably very annoying. Number three, I had a ton of friends, but I was a big and used to really torture my parents, teachers, and even friends. Number four, I was mostly blank, except for occasionally blank to go surfing. So we have more examples of used to. I used to study with my friends at university. I would meet them and I would prepare the exams all together. Ah, I would meet them and would prepare for exams. There you go. I would prepare for exams. Tatiana says, when I was a child, I would go skiing with my father. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So something nostalgic. Do I have any answers? So one, two, three, and four. And I guess five. There's five. One, two, three, and four, and kind of five. I'll wait for those answers to pop up. We have pupils or students, truants, skip school, be a troublemaker, nerd, teacher's pet, and well behaved. And if you have any questions about what these mean, tell me in the comments. So, do we have any answers for number one? I was a big in school. I would get straight A's every semester. I don't know where my glasses are. I was a big, let me wait for your answers for just a second. Number two, I was a, so no one liked me except the teacher. Yes, there we have answers. So we have nerd. I was a big nerd in school. Absolutely. Number two, I was a, there we have more with nerd. Yes, I was a big nerd. Mm, is it pupils or students? I was a teacher's pet. Number two, teacher's pet. A teacher's pet is the student who wants the teacher's attention. Like, hey, teacher, pick me, pick me. Teacher, you look fantastic today. You look lovely. What did you do differently? Teacher, do you have new perfume today? Teacher, your sweater looks so nice. That's a teacher's pet. Also a nerd. Teacher's pet. Excellent, guys. And nerd for number one. Yes. Number three. Oh, no, wait, there's another one for number two. Number 2B. What's the next one? I thought the other yes, which you're kind of correct, Valeria. The other pupils or students for the second one. I thought the other students were just jealous, but I was probably very annoying. So pupils and students, pupil and student, they mean the same thing. So number three, I had a ton of friends, but I was a big and used to really torture my parents, teachers, and even friends. Yes. Number two, I was a teacher's pet. I thought other students, so students or pupils, were just jealous. I thought other students were just jealous, or I thought other pupils were just jealous. So for number three, starting to see some answers. Troublemaker. I had a ton of friends, but I was a big troublemaker. And I used to really torture my parents, teachers, and even my friends. Torture means to do mean things to do terrible things to. Yes, students. So three, troublemaker. So torture equals to be mean to or to do awful things to. You guys are doing a great job so far. Number four, well behave and I skipped school. Good on the past tense. I skipped school. Just watch your spelling on it a little bit. Skipped is with an I. Kiara says troublemaker. Yes, for number three. Well behaved. Exactly. Except for occasionally skipping school. So in your example, Tatiana, I skipped school. Perfect. In this situation, occasionally, except for occasionally, skipping school. And you use the gerund form after certain prepositions. Or, uh, let's see, except for occasionally skipping school. So after certain prepositions is how we're using it for. So for occasionally, so except for skipping school. For is the preposition. Skipping is the gerund or verb ing that we use after that. Occasionally is an adverb of frequency. I was mostly well behaved. Great job. So let me type that. We use the gerund or form after certain prepositions like for. And that's why it's skipping school instead of skip or a different verb tense. All right. Everyone has done a great job with these matching. Does anyone have any questions about what vocabulary means? A troublemaker? And I want to know what a pupil is, and I think that's good. Tell me, what do these words mean? Troublemaker and pupil. Tell me in the comments while I move on to the next slide. So while you're telling me what troublemaker and pupil mean, break time, use used to or would to talk about what you did at school during break time, the sports you played and now don't, and what you were like at school. Example, I used to play basketball but quit because of an injury. And then we have our vocabulary: pupils, students, truant, skip school, be a troublemaker, nerd, teacher's pet, and well behaved. So troublemaker, Louisa says, it's a person that loves to make trouble. Exactly. Exactly. A troublemaker makes trouble. Now, pupil, the definition is right next to it. It's not a trick question. It is another word for pupil is only a student. But I know you, Louisa, every student is your favorite. Pupil equals student. They're the same. They're just different ways of saying the same thing. Yes, Tatiana. Pupil equals student. Troublemaker is person who has bad behavior. Exactly. Person who has bad behavior. So let's practice using used to and would, uh, talking about our past experiences. Feel free to use this vocabulary. So students, pupils, etc. Talk about what you did at school during break time, the sports you played and now don't, and what you were like in school. I was a nerd. I used to love reading. I used to enjoy correcting my teachers when I was very young. And I would spend time at lunch with other students, but generally I preferred to play wherever there weren't a lot of people. So just with my friends. Valeria, I used to play volleyball. Yes, it is called volleyball. That's an excellent example. I used to play volleyball. Valentina, during break time at school, we used to play infinitive here, volleyball. That sounds like fun. I remember at my school, it was very common for the girls to play volleyball. My high school was an all girls Catholic school. So if it's all boys or all girls, if it's an adjective modifying another noun like all girls school, you put a dash. All dash girls. Louisa, I was well behaved, but the times were really different. I can imagine. If you're retired now, then um, your schooling would have been very different from what you had taught in the past. Would you say that's true, Louisa? That it's very different when you were a teacher, and probably also even different now? Valeria, I would study with, so infinitive, I would study with other students, but I lived far from the university. I would study with. That sounds, yeah, like university, very diligent. I used to study a lot every day. Yes. Tatiana, I was a nerd at school and well behaved, except once when I skipped school to avoid a physics exam. Yeah, I know how that feels. A physics exam in art school has to be terrible. I don't imagine that it would have been the most easy exam in the world. Yes, was anyone here a teacher's pet? I think I was. I did not try to be, but I think I made work a lot easier for a lot of my teachers, and so they liked me in their classes. Oh, yes. We used to skip school. So we used to skip school. One sentence. Correct. We used to skip school when it snowed. So when you use when, you have to start a new sentence. When, subject, verb. When it, past tense, snowed. That's a great example, Valeria. So we used to skip school when it snowed. That sounds like a good reason to skip school. Bye, Louisa. It was nice to have you in class today. So, was anyone a teacher's pet? Was anyone a troublemaker? I want to know this as well. Were you a troublemaker in school? I thought I was, but I was not. Because I was a pain to my teachers, I think. I was a pain. I think I was a difficult student because I was smart, but having spoken with some of my teachers, I think I was probably more likely a teacher's pet. So tell me, were you a troublemaker? Were you teacher's pet? You know, Tatiana was a nerd. Valeria skipped school when it snowed. Valentina, I didn't used to skip school. Sounds like you were a good student, or there was nothing else to do, only go to school. Yes, I never skipped school, but many other people in my schools tried to. My school was very strict. So we use strict. My school was did not tolerate any skipping. If you skipped, they called your parents. If you were not in class, immediately they called your parents. Immediately. I used to, infinitive, chatter with other students. I used to chatter with other students. That's a good vocabulary, chatter. I used to chatter with other students. I was never a teacher's pet, and I always gave my homework to other pupils. The price you pay when you're a nerd. Yes, letting others copy your work. Yes, I did not do that because I thought, no, no, you're all mean to me. I'm not letting you copy any of my work. I used to be mean because I did not let anyone copy anything of mine because I thought I deserved it because I felt I had done the work, and so I would never let anyone copy from me. They would ask. They definitely would ask, and I would always say, "No, do it your damn self." Less polite way of saying, "Do it yourself, do it your damn self." Oh, okay. Before we go, I'm going to tell you about the school system in the United States. So, schools are generally divided into kindergarten for really little kids, babies. They're usually around 5 or 6 years old, actually. Kindergarten is 5 or 6 years old. Elementary school um, is grades 1 through 5. So, you start first grade when you're 5. Kindergarten, I guess maybe 3 or 4. You're very young, 3, 4, 5. You start first grade when you're 5 or 6. To fifth grade, that is elementary school. And then middle school, sixth to eighth grade, you usually end middle school when you are 14. And we get 4 years of high school from 9 to 12. University in the United States is typically 4 years, not three, for your undergraduate or first degree. In elementary school, pupils learn the basics of reading, writing, grammar, mathematics, and science, along with some music or art. They are graded on a letter scale. So I'm sure you've seen this before. A plus is the best. It is 98, 99%. F is usually 60 and below, if we're talking about percentage scores. So 60 and below is fail. D is the lowest passing grade, usually 65 or 70% correct. In middle school, so when you're between 10 and 14 years old, pupils can begin taking a foreign language as an elective if you had a nice school. I think I did, but we did not do foreign languages. Pupils can also choose a subject of personal interest from among choices like photography, woodshop, dance, or orchestra. These are called electives. So if you could choose a class, it was called an elective. I chose usually art, or what else did I choose? Generally art. That was my favorite elective. Once I got library, which was fun because I was by myself in the library. I actually really liked it because it was just me and the teacher, and that's it. Yeah, I was the opposite of a teacher's pet because even if my Latin and Greek teacher knew I was an excellent student, every time she used to challenge me, maybe to make me improve. Ah, I was the opposite of a teacher's pet. So, oh, okay. Even if, mm, because even though, when you use even if, you have to add another thing. So even if, maybe to make me improve, uh, I would never answer. So even if is a full phrase, and then you have to add a solution or some sort of statement to say next. So the effect. Even though, I think, is what you want to say. So even if is kind of a cause effect. So even if something, this is still the thing. So even if she knew I was smart, I didn't want to answer. And then even though is kind of like, even though this, it's kind of like despite, or a way of saying, even though my Latin and Greek teacher knew I was an excellent student, every time she used to challenge me, maybe to make me improve, it might be kind of similar there. Knew I was an Even though my Latin and Greek teacher knew I was an excellent student, period. She used to challenge me. You still have to add a phrase at the end. Because even though is kind of, now that I think of it, they're very similar. Cause and effect. But that's a great story, yeah. Even if and even though, don't forget to put the effect. So you put, even if I was a good student, every time she used to challenge me, these are all words that start phrases, but they don't end the full phrase. You need a full idea. Um, but that was excellent. We are out of time. I hope you enjoyed our lesson today. We talked about used to and would, which you guys use fantastically well. Don't forget, used to, infinitive, would, infinitive. I would go. I would study. I would read. I used to play sports. I used to not be a teacher's pet. I used to study Latin and Greek. Um, it was wonderful to meet all of you today. Thank you for all your great comments, and I loved hearing all of your stories. Great job, everyone. And I hope to see you again in another webinar soon. Bye.